Okay, give it a couple minutes here. Let somebody come on in here if they choose to. This channel, check this out. See if I'm live. Live. Exit that off. Anyhow, yep. So anyhow, yeah, I figured I'd come up here and do a rant today. A little bit of a rant about social engineering and programming that's responsible for dividing us genders to begin with. And simps and white knights and so on, who's also enablers of the problem and keep the problem going. And our behaviors, where our behaviors come from, how we wind up being so toxic, and we live in this world filled full of toxic people. It's sad that we have to have a war on the genders. We have to have, which is truthful. You've got to see a situation where men are constantly put down, put down, put down, smashed down, from United Kingdom to Australia to the United States. We have an epidemic of men who can't even get a woman in their life. Other men who do get women couldn't keep them for the life of them because nobody knows what they're doing. Nobody knows how they're treating one another. They don't look at their own behaviors. Nobody's willing to back up and examine their own behaviors. I've been looking at a lot of truthful stuff. You got a guy up here I watched a couple of clips on this guy who's going around and he's walking into classrooms, elementary school kids like 7, 8 years old, and he's seeing if we can't do away with gender roles and seeing if we can't be equal, and as I was watching this, I already knew the outcome of some of what he was trying just by what he was saying he was going to do. I already knew what the outcome would be. And then he's in and out. That was the outcome. And I'd never seen this before. And I knew what the outcome was going to be. And then he was all surprised and couldn't believe the results of the outcome that he was seeing. And I was like, of course, you don't believe it because society has lied to you forever and ever and ever and ever. And we have divided the genders at a very young age. And my nephew come over, was talking with me. We were talking about this, and even he himself at 33 says, yeah, girls grow up. He's 33 years old. Girls grow up and they're taught that they have to be beautiful and they put on makeup and they need to be skinny and they need to be this, which is true. They're told all these things about their looks, about their beauty, okay? And that they need to be attractive for the man, blah, 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 okay? And they're giving a whole different set of values. And I mean, just the list goes on and on and on. And this guy proved a point, what I've always known, is that if we didn't have gender roles for genders, and we would take our damn mind off the differences that there is, we wouldn't be in the situation we're in. But we're in a situation we're in because we have gender roles, because we have to put our mind on the differences, okay? And then we have the simps and the white knights that continue to perpetuate the problem. They're enablers of the problem because they won't stand up for themselves to a female. I seen Mike the MGTOW Monk made a video the other day, and he was talking about when he went to the restaurant and the waitress, and because of how long she took to serve him and blah, 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 that he left her like a 23-cent tip. And I was good for you, Mike. I was proud to see Mike do that. And then I thought about myself and thought I probably wouldn't have left her a tip at all. Maybe I'd have been more cruel than Mike. Maybe Mike was a little bit more generous than me. I'd have probably been just that one step crueler, okay, and left her nothing. I might have left her an you owe me. Okay, but I know what he was saying. because so many people are putting women above themselves that are men. And then there's this other guy who came up and did a video. Okay, and then there's about this book about women's behaviors. And the reality is the behaviors all started when they were young. And this is really where it come from. Yeah, I see you there, Wolf Martin. Okay. Yes, Project Mayhem, yes. And that is nothing but Project Mayhem is trying to get men to stand up for themselves, to stop bending over and stop taking the abuse from the women and from your society. And it's going to be a long time coming, a long fight. It's going to be a war because we have been socially engineered into the behaviors we're in. And men are the primary victims through all this programming and social engineering. We're the ones that are being dumped on, squatted on, thrown under the bus. And even though you have women in the military, it's the men that would be going to the front lines and giving up their lives, not the women. Because even in the military, women are being protected and pampered. It's what we've seen our whole life, isn't it? Pamper and protect, pamper and protect. Until you create yourself a narcissistic, entitlement issues, psychopathic female. Because this is what you will create yourself when you keep placing somebody over the top of somebody else and they don't have to be held accountable for their behaviors. This is the trouble. Because, see, we don't hold people accountable for their behaviors, do we? No, we don't. It's sad. When we need to be holding people accountable for their behaviors, the only people that ever get held accountable for their behaviors are the male gender. The female gender keeps getting excused out of the situation, and the majority of females won't even be held accountable unless they do something really terrific, like murder some guy. Okay, they have to do something atrocious to be held accountable for their behavior. The majority of women won't be held accountable for their behavior at all. They'll be excused. It'll be okay. There'll be nothing wrong with it. So what if she dumps all over him because he's a him? He's not even a human. This is the mentality, okay? And it's sickening. It's disgusting. So, yeah, I'm sure, I make a lot of enemies online and I make a lot of people like me. But I also make a lot of enemies because I don't play into the bullshit, the programming, the social engineering. I'm totally against it all, and they wonder, blah, 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 they tell me I'm up here, and I lived TFL I was 28 years old before I ever got out of that. And then after I broke up with my ex, yeah, it was me that broke up with him. I've said this before. It's not a lie. Then I lived it again for a while, and then I got another date. That, of course, that didn't, how it works out. Get a date, she's toxic, things ain't right. You go on your way, you leave, keep going. You're home again, right? And you go through this and you go through this, but as you get older, you learn how to get stronger. Young men who I really feel sorry for because they are not, naturally, they're going to grow up and they're either going to be what they are, but we've all dictated what the guy's supposed to feel and think, and our society has dictated what you're supposed to feel and think. And that's not the case at all, because you have some men that grow up that are very dominant, okay? You have other men that are not dominant at all. And this is in their nature. It's not, oh, well, then that makes them feminist. That makes them pussy. No, it doesn't. I gave you an example of communities that live, and they live these roles. And I didn't encourage you to live these roles, but I want you to understand that in nature, as human beings, men and women alike have more in common than you even know, because We've all focused on differences, and we have fallen for the programming. You have men that are naturally submissive. Okay, and this is no lie. And yet most of our people out here, societies, our relationships are founded on switch anyhow. So, but you do got men that are naturally submissive, and you do got women that are naturally submissive. You have women that are naturally dumb, and men that are naturally dumb, and people don't want to accept this, and they need to accept reality for what reality is. It's about getting to know somebody to begin with. And if you're a person that's more dominant in your life, and that's what you are, then you need to be looking for somebody that's really more submissive. And that's really where that comes from. But people don't understand this because that was the hidden part of our sexuality that your society never taught you. Okay, that's all that is. And I'm not telling you how to live your life. I'm telling you the genders belong, treat each other equally, especially as far as laws and stuff. And they belong learning how to compromise. Because I've said it 1,000 times and I know that I'm correct, okay, about what I'm telling you. Our behaviors come from social engineering. Girls grow up to be what they are because of society's gender roles, because of what's been taught, what's going on in their environment, and white knights and simps. If we flipped it all around and we placed the men above the women, then we pampered the men and we did the gender roles completely in reverse, and society taught everything in reverse of what you know in your whole life, you would be freaking out at what you'd see going on in society. You really would. Because you wouldn't believe yourself by what you're seeing because, but if we did that, pretty soon that would become norm and everybody would say that's norm. See, our norms is what's put into us from the time we was born and brought home from the hospital, depending on the environment you grew up in. And of course, we have a lot of norms that are all the same for us because we went to a school system that was being controlled by these people. And so we had all learned the same things pretty much, with an exception of what's going on in your household. And this is where we get our information. This is what we become. We become who we are during 0 years old and 7 years old is the crucial time. This guy that was doing the experiment really walked in a little late, but he's trying to hit young elementary school kids to do these experiments with. And by the time he gets there, of course, they've already had 7 years of programming on this earth. Okay. And some of them 8 years. Now, this is very young yet, but some of these behaviors are already started to be inbred in these children, as he discovered. And he discovered if he could change some of that up, how the outcome came out so much better. But why would the behaviors be that way? Well, that's simple. Because this has been going on for freaking many, 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 many decades. Okay? And so it's all we've known our whole life. There's something's all you've known your whole life. And it's the behaviors that's been social engineered. When you grow up in that house, you act out in them behaviors, and your children, when they're born and you bring them home, these are the behaviors they witness and see. So you couldn't expect anything to be any different than what it is. Well, you can focus on the difference, but you have to take your mind on this is to win a doubt. You can look at the differences and recognize the differences because I'll tell you what, we all know that there are differences between men and women, okay? We all know this already. We already know that men are supposed to be having testosterone, however you want to say it, and women are supposed to be having estrogen. We all know this stuff, okay? But the reality is there's too much emphasis has been put on the differences between men and women. Because I could take you to the bank and I can tell you this to be factual, okay? If we acknowledge the differences, but don't put our focuses on the differences, we would treat each other more equal. In doing so, there would be less friction, less drama, less resent. And that's just the way it is in reality. And people would get along a whole lot better. And just like the friend zone and the dating scene, don't even exist. But yes, it does, because the women put you in that zone and they will never. That's because of social engineering. Women are doing what, that's why I used the pen for a poll and said programming on one side's for women and one side's for men. Okay? That's why I did that, to try to demonstrate to you what's taking place. And this is nothing we can turn around overnight. This is nothing we're going to turn around at all unless we get the programming to stop. And I'm not sure that we can ever accomplish that, because people got to back up and start recognizing what's really happening. Okay? And I'm not going to go with all that patriarchy. I'm not going to go with all these names, because these are names that have been given to you. And you're running with these means and names and what this means and what that is, but they've been given to you by the very people that's destroyed our society. And these things have all been tried over and over and flipped around throughout history, and they keep failing over and over and over. And do you wonder why things keep failing over and over and over throughout history? I'm giving you some clues right now. But you have to be willing to accept them clues. You know, it's beyond me how you can think that women and men are that much different, when in reality they're not. If they were that much different, you wouldn't be here, guys. Because the last time I looked, a woman can't get pregnant by a cow, by a horse, by a dog, by a cat, by a leopard, by a chimpanzee. She doesn't bear an offspring to any of these animals. She's a human being. But somehow she gave birth to a boy that was less than a human. Somehow the boy is less than a human and she's the only human. Social engineering. Everything you've known your whole life. You know, think about it this way. This stuff started long before I was born. I'm 58 years old. If you're 30 or 35 years old, everything you've known, everything you've seen from the time you were brought home from the hospital, from the time you first started kindergarten or preschool, on up has all been put in your face. What you've been told and the names you've been given, and patriarchy, you know, all of these names that's been given to you throughout society of what it is, was created by another human being to begin with. So you're running with a name that somebody else created, and you're running with corruption, and you're not wanting to recognize right from wrong. Recognize the fact that if she's a human being that gives birth to a male, that male must also be a human being. And there could not possibly be as many differences as you think they are, or she wouldn't be giving birth to you, because she wouldn't be able to give birth to you, because you would not be a human no more. This is the crux of the whole thing. Social engineering is nothing other than brainwashing, to convince somebody deep inside their heart that this lie is true. Then that somebody runs with that lie because they believe in that lie from deep in. That is hard to change. I'm not telling you there's not differences between men and women. I'm telling you the majority of differences reported in society and names given are complete hogwash social engineering that's keeping us divided. And people don't want to see that. They don't want to accept that, but they're going to go ahead and go back and replay history all over again and wonder why it didn't work. And replay history all over again and wonder why it didn't work. And replay history all over again and wonder why it didn't work. This is not the first time in history that men and women have been at each other's throats. All of this stuff is a complete replay of history, but people don't want to look. They don't want to do their homework to realize that all this stuff is going on over and over and over since the beginning of the time. So then you have to question yourself, if you keep doing the same things over and over and you keep failing, shouldn't that send up a red flag and tell you you're doing something wrong? What is wrong with restructuring our society? If you're going to stop evil and wrong behavior, I guess the first thing you need to do is start recognizing right from wrong. Right from wrong doesn't have a gender in it. When do you put a gender into right to wrong? What are you going to say because you're a man you can't raise your children? I'm sorry, but only women are loving and nourishing and capable of raising a kid. A crock of shit. All men are villains. They would molest their kids. Well, but that's what the feminists said. That's what division said. That's what people that don't know what they're talking about say. Well, but the man was the hunter and provider. The man's the strong one. That's why my grandma would have handed your ass back to you. If you tried to mug my dad's mother, you'd have been fucking probably picked up on an ambulance. And she beat the living crap out of you. She was as strong as any man ever was. Well, that's just a fluke. No, that's not a fluke. That's because she didn't grow up in an environment where she was being pressed down and held back. She was expected and had the same responsibilities piled on her that her brothers had. She had to lift up that log when they had to lift up that log. She had to go out there and lift all that heavy stuff and along with her brothers. She had to go out there and use that axe and chop down that tree and split that wood up with that axe. She didn't have a chainsaw. And neither did her brothers. And she grew up every bit as physically strong as any man. You say, well, but that's an exception. No, because when you look in society, we have lots of men that are skinny and petite and little and short. They can't compete to some 6-foot muscle-bound guy. And even if that little skinny, short guy went to a gym and built up, he still wouldn't be able to do what this big 6-foot tall, 280-pound muscular guy could do. It's a fact of life, man. We're all human beings. It's social engineering from the very beginning, and getting this across to people is really hard to do because they have their belief system already wrapped in what they believe, but their belief system has been created for them by somebody else, and the lies that have been told for hundreds and hundreds of years now is what we all keep going back to, and we all keep going back to. You know, so even with when in doubt, when he says, but that's patriarchy, that's the problem, is you're using what's been here that's already, I mean, you gotta try to understand where I'm coming from. Because it's the reality is this: nobody wants to feel lower than somebody else. And you're not going to change the system and take the power away from the women and fix society by forcing women to do this, because first off, yes, the women need to lose their power. Totally agree. Yes, they are as corrupt as hell. And yes, the family course will walk all over the top of you. Your government will walk all over the top of you. And these women will continue to walk all over the top of you as long as they can. There's no doubt about that. There's no doubt about that at all. So men are in a situation where men need to stand up and fight back. We need to take power away from women. But if you can ever take down the government, take out the powers to be, the people creating this problem, because until you go after the root cause, you ain't doing no good. You can't fix the problem by leaving the root cause in place. If you leave the root cause in place, you have not fixed the problem, and you will not fix the problem. But if we could overturn the system and we could take back what belongs to all of us as a people and take the power away from the women, you can't sit there and put yourself above the woman, because now you're no better than she was. No lie, you're no better than she was now. You didn't like it when she was in control over you. You didn't like how you were treated. And you know what? Through my life, I've seen both ends of this. I know a guy that wore the pants in his house. That's right. I know a couple of guys that wore the pants in his house. And he treated his women like complete dirt. Just the way the women are treating you now. Now, do you think these women really appreciate being treated that way? This is where I try to get it across to people that we're all human beings. Nobody wants to be treated that way. Nobody. What's going on in society is so shameful because so many men are being walked all over the top of. And it needs to stop. So many women are corrupt. And we need to stop them. What we have to do is we have to reconstruct our society. That's what we need to do. And we got to do away with gender roles. I'm telling you that right now. That was man created anyhow. That's not in your damn DNA. That's a bunch of bluff. A bunch of BS. It's not in your biology. It's not hardwired into you. You're like a computer from the time you're a baby. Getting that through people's heads is just... But it's the truth. And I'm not going to change what I'm saying because I know it's the truth. Because you want to believe some propaganda that's been fed to you is not my problem. This is why that social experiment with that guy with the 7 and 8-year-old kids, girls and boys, I already knew what his outcome was going to be based on the stuff I'm telling you. And he was all surprised when the outcome came out to what I knew it was going to be. He was like, wow, really? Duh. You know, and I hate to be that way with anybody. It's just the reality is the social engineering has been going on for hundreds of years. Long before I was born. And I'm 58 years old. The reality is women don't give birth to a cow if she took and went to bed with a horse or a cow. She wouldn't get pregnant and give a half human, half horse baby. She can't get pregnant by any other animal out there. So her egg is fertile, and her egg is dropped, and that animal's fertile, man. That gorilla's fertile. That zebra's fertile. Do you follow what I'm telling you? She cannot get pregnant by it. She don't give birth to a man and somehow he's not a human. Somehow he's second-class life citizen or third class. All man created. Every last bit of it. So now, do you think you can actually make this problem go away by stripping the women of all their power and then putting the system back together again that now the man's the one in control? All you did was repeat history. In 150 years from the time you put it back together again, the men are in control, there'll be another feminist movement of women marching for their rights, and you just replay history all over again. And we'll use all of our fancy names. We'll go patriarchy and and all of our fancy names we've come up with, and we'll use them then too. And this is the reason I've tried to tell people you have to back up. You have to recognize right from wrong, not gender. Right from wrong doesn't recognize a gender. You have to recognize right from wrong and what would you want done onto you, and that's what you have to remember. And this is what you have to practice. And this is not a gender issue. Both genders have to do it. We have to take away this mentality of the girls play with Barbie dolls and girls play with this and girls play with that and the girls are weak and the girls are this and that they must be skinny and they must be good looking and they must be this and they must be that. That mentality is also corruption, whether you believe it or not. I can understand that you want to have an attraction to a female. I can understand all that. I respect you for that. But you've put your focus on all the wrong things. You focus on the women's differences. You focus on what they look like for your penis to go in a hole. You all forgot that none of you are keeping your look. You'll say, well, but not right now. I mean, that's years off. You blow off the reality and you don't take the time to get to know somebody for who they are. And if you continue to blow off the reality, then you're blowing off the truth and the reality, and you will never correct nothing. You'll just repeat history. Haven't we repeat history enough times already? When you say, well, man's progressed and we got all this technology, progressed into what? Self-destruction? Have you looked into G5 at all? Do you really realize what's going down behind your back? While you're all worried about stopping the women, your society is already rolling out the ultimate weapons against you that's going to kill us all. Because while you took your mind off your government, who is being led by the upper tier powers to be, they didn't take their minds off it. They got you right where they want you, all divided. So you're going to stand there and you're going to sit there and you're going to focus all of your minds on the differences between men and women. We need to correct this war. I don't care about what's going on with the government. I could care less. I don't care what they're doing overseas. I could care less. So what if it came down from the top, the powers to be? I could care less. I mean, I'm not worried about that. I need to correct this. But it's that made the problem you think you're correcting. But you're not standing up to that. Well, I heard a MGTOW talk the other night where we talked about the system's too big. We can never change it. We got to do this in silence. Don't worry, you will die in silence. You will allow history to replay itself again because that's what you're doing. This is what's always happened. You're either going to die a man on your feet fighting back or you're going to die a coward on your knees. Take the pick. You can't have both. You can't cherry pick it. It's like the normies over there speaking out against NWO and all the corruption. They speak a lot of truth, but when it comes to the manosphere, oh, no. That's too personal. And I'm a simp and I'm a bigot and I'm a, hypocrite. And I'm not standing up with these guys. These guys are women haters. They're men. They went their own way. They're TFL. They're incel. They're sick. They have mental issues. Now, see, I'm only telling you what's being said on the other side. And you know what's funny and hilarious about that? These guys call themselves awake to the powers to be. They're not awake at all. They can't understand how the powers to be caused all the problems that we're having over here in the manosphere. It was never no accident. If they would have really looked in their history, they would have saw all this stuff's already happened. And I understand this. Maybe that's why my channel gets suppressed down so much. Maybe that's why I've lost the channels I've lost. You ever stop to think about that? I mean, I can name 2 channels I lost that I absolutely had 0 strikes on my channel when they removed my channel with no notice. I can remember feds showing up at my door and losing a job because of what I talk about. My channel, I constantly, if I get 3 or 4 subs, I lose 3 or 4 subs as fast as I get them. Then I get them back and lose them again, get them back, 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 lose them again. And if I eventually get a bunch at once, like I get a video that goes viral and YouTube can't control that, which has happened 4 or 5 times since I've been doing this, then I get a bunch of subs off that video that went viral. Then YouTube will take 4 or 5 away, but they don't make a big number difference because they don't want to be caught. But if I get up to 25, 2,600 subs, 0 strikes, channel's gone. Hundreds of videos gone. It's happened to me 4 times. So, don't tell me because I know I've been here, I've lived it, I've done it. I'm only telling you reality. Reality is we all can acknowledge the differences in our opposite gender or female, as they can acknowledge the differences in the male without focusing on them differences. We can acknowledge the differences cannot be as much as that was reported, or sorry to tell you guys, you wouldn't be here right now, and neither would she, because she couldn't have gave birth to you. I hate to break the bad news to you that you're a human. It's called you're not thinking. You're not backing up and you're really not thinking. That's all it's about. And I'm not criticizing anybody. I'm not calling you dumb. I'm not cutting in front of you or anything, man. I'm telling you this from my heart. This is the reality that I'm telling you. History didn't accidentally keep replaying itself over and over. Taking the power back away from the women and putting yourself back as the dominant one in the house is only repeating history. That'll win 150 years from now. We can have another feminist movement. We can have another war of the genders. Wow, a lot of accomplishments you made. You repeated history again. Some accomplishment that was. As we keep doing that over and over, huh? Here, let me tell you something else. Now, this one it'll give you a mind bugger here. Okay? And this is off topic, but I want you to think about this, okay? Because it's real. It's as real as you are alive. Did you know that the human being is a lot like a motor and an engine and a car? He says, no. An engine in a car is man-made, and it has to have fire, fuel, and compression for that motor to run. Fire, fuel, and compression. Okay, here, I'm going to throw this at you now. Fire, fuel, and compression. The motor, the combustible motor that's in your automobile, has to have fire, fuel, compression, or it won't run. Okay? So, let's look at the human heart. Has to have fire, fuel, compression. You're going to say, no. Yes. You're going to say, no. The motor on a car has to have fire, fuel, compression. The human heart has to have fire, fuel, compression. You're going to say, no, that's a bunch of BS. No, it isn't. Half your heart runs on gases. Gases. What do you put in your gas tank? Oh, shit. It's a different type of gas, but it's gases. Okay? Now that's the fire. There's the fire. Where's the fuel, you'd say? That's the gases on the other side of the heart. The fire, where's the fire? The spark that ignites the fuel. Well, you don't have spark or electricity in your body. Want to bet? Half your heart runs on gases and half of your heart runs on electricity. Have you checked your arm or your stomach or your chest or your buttocks for where you put the batteries in? Well, what do you mean you got no batteries? So explain to me where the electricity comes from that fires the gas on the other side of the heart, causing the heart to do this, which is compression, just like a vacuum pump. The old fuel pump that had the little arm that went into the camshaft ran like a vacuum, and it caused compression, pumping the fuel. Your heart, fire, one half is electric, fuel, which is gases on the other half, causing which pumps the gas in a car, which pumps the blood in your veins. I know that was off topic, but I wanted to get that through your head. Understand now. So then you think about that and you think, why do you think they got the EKG machine and they got the other ones that you go, ching, ching, when they have a heart attack and they shoot electricity into here and here? And electricity revives their heart. How do they restart a heart after they do a quadruple bypass? See, I had one of them with electricity. Said, you know what pacemakers are, right? You've heard of pacemakers. That's what keeps the electric part of the heart giving electric. So you ask yourself that question. You think about that. Just think about that deep for a little while. And think about G5. I saved and bookmarked a video. I haven't downloaded it. The G5 apocalypse, and I think you should watch it. There's lots of truth in that video that I know to be factual truth. But you people focusing on the manosphere, you won't look at that, will you? Because you're only worried about women, right? That's correct. My last commenter. That is the correct answer. The G5 is going to wind up killing us. So while we're all worried, dancing around the women's problem, they're getting ready to roll out a weapon that's going to kill those numbers of us big time. And it's not going to discriminate because, see, G5 won't recognize the differences, okay? It don't care about the differences that ain't there. It's not going to focus on a few minor differences. It don't care if you're a boy or girl. People don't want to pay attention, I'm telling you. I've done my homework. I spent years looking at NWO and linking stuff back to the dating scene, linking stuff back to our behaviors, studying why the hell are men and women acting the way they're acting. Because that was my whole focus when I came online. I gave people TFL because it was real, really happening. It's been denied for years, even though it was in their face, by people who wasn't willing to open their eyes. I was glad to see When in Doubt come along and Mike the MGTOW Monk and some of these other gentlemen that never could see it finally open their eyes and see it. And I'm not telling anybody they have to go out and do the homework that I've done, but I'm telling you this. If you don't open your eyes to some of the stuff that's going on around you, you won't have to worry about correcting the problems between the genders at all. You will not have to worry about that. That'll be the last thing on your mind out of nowhere, as you'll find yourself in a struggle for your life, for your very own life, at which time you won't be worrying about the differences of the genders. Our last commenter couldn't have said it more correct. You know, I've looked into that stuff before, and I'll have to say this about the G5 apocalypse. They got a lot of truth in that video, and I know a lot of you are going to say, oh, that's fear porn, that's fear porn, that's fear porn. No, that's reality. See, because you got to go, and I know I've changed topics, but you need to understand this stuff. I told you this is why this is a rant, okay? Lead paint. Well, when we were getting poisoned, and we were poisoning our children off the lead plate chips from coming off the walls. A lie. One of the biggest lies ever. Not the only biggest lie ever, but that was a gigantic lie. What did we use lead for in a hospital? What does lead protect you from? Oh no, lead would have protected you from G5. It would have protected you from smart meters. Now do you understand why I brought up the human heart? Is like a combustible engine in a car. I went to the school for mechanics. I understand the motor. I didn't always do remodels when I was a young. I went to school and I went to a college for mechanics, auto mechanics, and I worked on cars. I grew up fixing and tearing things apart. When I was a kid, I was tearing a record player down and putting it back together and making it work. I was tearing bicycles and lawnmowers down and putting them back together and making them work. I didn't like sports when I was a kid. I hated sports. Exactly. I mean, you're going to get electricity from lemon seeds. Yes. That's been proven, man. You could fucking fire a little dinky motor up a little with just a lemon. Okay? So, but the reality is that's why I used our heart and a combustible motor. And frequencies and electricity is in our body, people. Okay? And they can change the frequencies now, see, because we got lead paint that ain't on your house no more. Back in the day, a lot of homes would have had old wood siding and they'd had 3, 4, 5, 6 coats of paint on it, been painted a couple, 3 times over the years. And all the paint had lead in it. And what are they using? If you go get an x-ray at the hospital, they use a lead vest. What are the walls lined with? Lead. What was all your houses lined with? Lead. What did we do away with? Lead. What did that do for us? It opened up your walls so that now they can penetrate your walls right into your house. Smart meters, frequencies. See, while you worry about the genders when they roll out G5, you're going to find out the hard way that cancer's been curable forever and forever and ever, and you've been lied to. You're going to find out the hard way the stuff that I've talked about is true. And if you could go look into the shit that I know and find out it to be true, then you might want to rethink about what I'm telling you about the genders. I'm not trying to piss you off. I'm trying to wake you up to realize the differences between men and women is not that much. And that you have to take your mind off them differences and start looking at each other as human beings. And start practicing being equal with each other and not focusing on the differences. If we're ever going to fix society, we have to do things right. You cannot take the power back from the women and hand it over to yourself as the men saying you're going to do a better job and fix our society. The only thing you're going to do is allow another feminist movement to rise up in about 150 years later. And then these guys will be living TFL again. And we'll be right back to where we're at right now because that's all you're doing is just helping to replay history. Replaying it over and over and over and over. Sad. It really starts off with self-awareness. Willing to look into things that you may not be interested in. Willing to step back and sit on a fence and not make a judgment call. And watch and see with your own eyes what's really going on around you. Outside of the dating arena. And not lie to yourself and turn your head and look the other way. This is what has to happen. Because see, us men can rise up if we could ever get the manosphere together. But we can't just take power away from women. We have to go after the people that done this to us. Because if we don't stop the root cause, you stop nothing. You wasted your time. You can't take the power away from women and think that you're giving it to yourself. No human being belongs having power over another human being. I know that's a tough one for you to swallow. I know I may piss a few people off with that, but it is the reality and it is the absolute God's honest truth. And I'm not even religious. Don't matter what your gender is. No human being belongs having power over another human being. We have to change the structure of society if we could ever take out the powers to be. Gender roles have to be thrown away, done away with. Men and women need to understand that they have to first become friends, then become best friends that will lead to real love and lead to more. That's right. Then nobody keeps their looks. The tools that have destroyed us, guys, is the modeling industry, the fashion industry, the pornography, our television set, what we've taught little girls from the time she was a little girl. We were set up, lied to, used, and we have destroyed our own selves. We were set up, lied to, and used, and manipulated, and programmed like a computer by the powers to be. No accident, deliberately done. It's not a conspiracy theory. If you think I'm a nut job, you're sound asleep and there's no help for you. Okay, that's all I can tell you. I stand by the TFLers because I feel for these men. I'm going to encourage TFLers to go their own way, but I'm also going to encourage incels to go their own way. And I'm also going to encourage you while you're going your own way, start opening your eyes on what's going on around you and stop calling it names and start looking into things. Because the commenter who says G5 is going to kill us is 100% correct. Spot on. Whether you want to believe it or not. It doesn't matter what you believed. If you haven't looked into stuff, you know nothing about what you haven't looked into. And don't sit there and pretend like you know because some TV set told you. Because one of your friends rattled something off to you. Now you're getting secondhand information, or it could be by somebody who hasn't looked themselves, that don't even know what they're talking about. I'm not telling you to believe me. I'm telling you to back up, sit on a fence, and start looking for yourself and become aware of what's going on around you. That's what I'm telling you. I'm not telling you you have to believe me. Okay, that's where this comes from. You know, it's sad that we're in the state that we are. Now, I know I may have pissed a few people off. I know that my numbers are very low right now. A whole 3 people in the chat. I don't care about numbers. I'm not here for fame. I'm here to try to help people. If you don't want the help, you're just like the horse. I can lead the horse to water, but I can't make it drink. But I also won't feel sorry for you when you find out the stuff I said is true. And you're all upset because you didn't have time to listen. I won't feel sorry for you when you find out that G5 is killing you because you wouldn't listen and we were all nut jobs. I will not feel sorry for ignorance. If you're going to be ignorant, then be ignorant and die from stupidity as people that are ignorant do. We were all born ignorant, every last one of us. And I'm not calling you names when I say you're born ignorant, because all as ignorant means is without knowledge. But it's up to us to school ourselves and knowledge ourselves. And if you think it's up to some group of people called your school system that's being controlled by the very people responsible for all the stuff we're going through, then you got a sad lesson coming your way. You really do. So, I'm not going to get too much more in detail because I'm not here to do your homework for you. I'm only going to tell you you need to sit on a fence, stop calling names, start looking at what's going on around you, especially if you're going MGTOW. Don't tell me you don't got time if you're walking away from your opposite gender to look at what's going on around you and take it seriously and pay attention to what's really going on. I'm not saying believe anybody that speaks up. I'm saying go look for yourself. Sit on a fence, make no judgments, and watch and see what's going on around you. And you will start seeing what I'm telling you with your physical eyes. And when you start seeing it, then you will realize what I'm telling you. And if it scares you, I can't help by that. There's no help for you then. Because, yeah, it is scary. But you also have to have tough skin. And you also have to realize you're either going to die on your feet as a man fighting back, or you're going to die on your knees as a coward. And you guys can take your pick to which one that is. And as far as the genders goes, I'm telling you, I'm not lying to you. There's not as many differences as you want to believe. And this is not about some man-created name called patriarchy, okay? No, I'm not preaching that at all. That term was given to stop you from being able to ever fix things between the genders. Because they don't want us coming together. So the best thing I can tell you is you better acknowledge the differences and let it go. Stop focusing on them. And that's to men and women alike. Because she didn't give birth to some man, some baby boy, because she had that many differences. That's a crock of BS. And it's our behaviors that's got us where we're at. And that came from social engineering. That's why I told you the tools recognize right from wrong. And do unto one as you want done unto yourself. On an individual basis, men and women alike. And if we can't do that, you've lost. And it won't matter if you want to take the power back away from women. Because you'll misplace that power and repeat history. Because you know it was patriarchy. Or the Bible said the man runs the family. That's right. The script said, I believe we have a creator, but I don't buy into the Bible because it just so happens we're in a war of evil versus good and evil's winning. At the same time, evil's allowing the Bible to be in every church and every motel room around your country. Did you ever stop to think about it? That's a whole nother video. But I'm going to get out of here with that being said, and you all have a good one.